answer would be if it's not different from, first of all, it's not different, I think, from the situation where we don't use the affordances. We have the same problem. We don't know what's like. Here we involve users, and I have heard the whole week from other presentations that you should go to listen to the users because they know what's best for themselves. Now, if it's true, as you say, I mean, that's why just my answer was that I think you should have all kinds of experts involved in the process because they may bring up ideas that I, as a user, don't think and may make me think. Subsequently, I think by applying the process and by generating affordances and probably more affordances, you in the end will end up with lists and ideas and get more knowledge. That's the only way I think we can make a step forward. That's what my answer would be in general.
I would like to know if I got it right, that in your affordance feature matrix you had terms on the left side that I would call functions. And you have functions of daily things that we are used to do, like sleep and eat. So easily recognizable, we are used to it since we are human beings. And there are other terms I would not call functions, like feeling safe. We don't even have criteria yet how we would measure this. What is it in a space to feel safe? What criteria are important to define this? It's a total new concept, and you mix it up in this matrix. How do you
the concept of affordance is a broader concept than the concept of function. And I illustrated that already with the chair, because the function of a chair is that you can sit on it. But if we want the chair to be also stackable, and that's not a function of the chair, that's not what it's made for in the first place, right? So I think the affordance concept is a broader concept. I agree with you, and there are still many questions remaining, because it has hardly been applied, as I showed you, to design. It is a broader concept, and it is also broader than just related to actions or activities. It also involves what I would call objectives. For instance, in all the work I have done on the meaning of dwelling, there is one meaning you come across all the time, and that's called privacy. Right? That's what we all know and what we find important. Now, privacy is not something that's related to action. It's not an action. It's an activity.
I would call it already as a spatial quality.
Okay, you may call it spatial
so
quality,
not a meaning,
but it's also a value. In discussions about values and in value systems, you also always find privacy. It's a value. It's something I want to achieve.
It's
through my dwelling.
Psychological thinking, it's
Well,
need,
of course,
basic need.
yeah. So, that's my answer. That's
Yes. One question, which are actually two questions. The first one is, I wanted to know how much you were aware of the recent work of the ANFA in San Diego, in the United States, which actually cooperates architects and neuroscientists, and actually developed the concept of affordance in neuroscientific terms with the understanding of brain plasticity, which is actually basically it's about the same, but affordance is actually the understanding of brain cells that actually remodulates in relationship with the environment, and how actually the environment is making the brain. That's actually, and they're developing from psychologists, and they're actually dealing with the exact methods, well, not the exact methods, but similar things that you do. So that was my first question. And then the second question is,
well, let me answer the first one.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm aware of that work, so I'm interested in a reference.
okay,
from you.
references.
Okay.
And the second thing is that, because I've been scanning through their work, and I think it's actually, they have actually right now the same problem that Gibson and Barker is actually the application with architecture, because there's a lot of things which are actually quite intuitive.
And what in?
Intuitive,
yeah.
And also with the Ulrich research that actually light provides that thing, do we really need research to prove that? But maybe we do. But then what do we do with it? And actually, what do we do with what as architects can we really? I don't feel that right now the field of research is advanced enough, so we have actually very precise data on what to do and what not to do, because it's also a very complicated thing regarding to individual differences.
Well, I have not been arguing that it's easy. It is a complicated process, and we especially applied for funding for a PhD student to work this out, because there are still many questions remaining, and these type of questions too. Now, as far as architectural intuition or the architect's intuition is involved, I'm a little bit reluctant there to go into that question, because I'm aware of research that shows that there is hardly such a thing as intuition as you think there is. So it is, for instance, empirical research has shown where different types of different types of design students were compared with each other, and different types of design professional, among others, architect. It has been shown that, for instance, architectural students don't show any form of intuition in their designs, which was very remarkable for me to find out. And that if you look at the professionals, it is the experts who have done professional work for 15 or 20 years who show something that might be called intuition, but it is based mainly on past experience. And it's not something like what they call an aha-erlebnis. Wow, a great new idea. No, it's apparently based on experience in the past, or on combinations of experiences, which they bring up as something new. So I'm a little bit hesitant there about whether there is such a thing as intuition.
Last question for Sven.
Yeah.
Thank you for your lecture. If I recall correctly, you started with the statement that perception of affordances is quite individual, right? It can differ between persons. So, could you indulge me on how can we make the step to objectivity and generalization for micro-design decisions if the perception of affordances is a very personal matter?
Yeah. Well, it's an individual matter. So affordances are individual environment relationships. And there is definitely a certain amount of idiosyncrasy involved in there. But what we also know from many studies in housing research, that such factors as culture and socialization play important roles. And in those processes, we get a certain, we share ideas about, for instance, our dwellings. So in that sense, in my view, affordances are individual, but that does not necessarily mean that you and my affordances with respect to a dwelling change tremendously. So that we should have all in totally different individual dwellings. But we probably share many. And that's why I was talking about that list. I think there are many we have in common.
Yes, thank you. And would you think that the framework is also usable? I mean, I can understand that it's usable for the decision to not hold a concert for a classical concert in a stadium. I mean, that's very logical. But for example, let's look at this design of this hall, and let's look at the way the door is designed, for example, here, or the way the screen is designed, or the individual lighting, would the model be usable enough to make decisions on that very small level? Or is it only usable for the broad sense, for example, the
I
layout?
think it's clear that, in my view, it's clear that these doors are not designed for having lectures here and for quiet sessions here.
Yeah.
Because you'll be disturbed the whole time. Everybody's walking around, you're looking outside and they're looking inside, so that's clear.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and do you have an example of a way of working that a designer can implement in their practice to be at this micro level?
Well, I think we have seen them over the last few weeks several times. I mean, you can, if you incorporate all the different types of users and discuss and determine what the functions of this room should be, for instance, right? You can come to, I think, quite straightforward decisions what it should look like. For instance, let me give you an example. The way the whole room here is set up is just for listening to a lecture or to somebody giving a presentation, right? Now you have other rooms here, not the big ones, but the relatively smaller ones, where you have not only the chairs, but you have the tables. And if there is a lecture, they're standing in front of you. But if you arrange it around, you would have a meeting, you arrange it around. So that room makes a lecture room into a meeting room by changing everything around. So you make it a different, it affords, so to speak, different behavior pattern. You make it into a different place. So that's possible.
Yeah.
So you can, I think, design on that level.
Yeah. Okay.
We would like to thank both speakers tremendously for these interesting lectures. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, also for all the attendants, we hope you have enjoyed this week, and thank you for being here and making this possible.
And for some of you, see you tomorrow at the workshop.
Yeah.